Sushira Eke! Sushira Eke! Sushira Eke! Sushira Eke! Sushira Eke!
$2,000? Yeah, and how much is that in dollars? Hey, excuse me, I won. What the heck are you doing here? Hey, just a second.
Okay.
Just a second here.
Shomai Maro Tuma! Wakuraka?
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese! Oh, fuck.
Wait, are we good?
Yeah.
What up?
Oh, 3, 4. This is your countdown.
3, 2, 4. I was trying to.
I don't know why that wind up was terrifying.
Right.
This is weird.
You're just like
no, when you winded back, for some reason in my head, I moved away from the mic. I moved away from the microphone instead of taking off my headphones. Just jump out of the window.
Well, welcome back to another week of the Pop Culture Punks podcast. We are Phil, Josh, and Zach, your mad raving hosts.
Mad raving?
Yeah, mad buddy. Raving.
You bet your bottom dollar.
We are raving mad. And we're also British now.
No. If you could have any accent, what accent would you have? This is my slight derail. Irish. Irish?
I don't want Irish.
Scottish.
Does it have to be like
Gaelic?
Does it have to be like a European descent accent?
No, it could be anything.
My own. No, I'm just kidding.
I think northern Wisconsin.
Yeah, northern Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I
don't know.
Gaelic
I think what's that dude's name from Futurama? He's kind of playing off a Spanish style accent, but it's a little more exaggerated when Amy goes to get the car.
Oh, the one car says
dog food for Victor tonight.
And yet, it is so nice car. I want you to experience the deal.
And yet,
when he's like, then how do I get the girls? One word. Thundercooper Fackenberg. It's the name of the car that this guy's trying to sell fry.
Oh my god.
Thundercooper Falkenberg.
That's awesome.
Thundercooper Falkenberg. That's
hard
a
to say.
thing.
Back to puppet beer. Ugh. I'm so tired.
I know. I am too. I'm feeling the
Dude,
same.
yesterday was a long day.
It was.
Yeah.
Why was the video thing so tiring?
Because it was a lot. It was a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And I had way too many energy drinks.
I know. I had like 2 and then some coffee, and I was like,
we were juiced though.
We were juiced.
So, since we're on that, do you wanna tell the good people about what we did yesterday?
yeah, we're getting a little out.
You want to
We're getting a little out of order. We're getting a little
Out of order.
Out of.
So yeah, yesterday we filmed some fun videos.
Yeah.
That we will be posting on the YouTubes at some point.
Don't watch them. Really stupid.
Yeah, they're terrible. No, for real though, they're awesome.
But
and
really,
you can hear about my opinions on everything from GameCube to Green Day to Pie.
Michael Vick.
Yep. To Michael Vick.
Some Michael Vick comments sneak in there.
Yeah, we don't want to.
I was surprised.
Like sports.
I was surprised you even knew any of that stuff.
Yeah,
but
that's
anyway.
the one thing I do know.
So if you want to know what we're talking about, check it out. It'll be going up, I think, today. I'm gonna post it today.
Is Pop Culture Punks the name of our YouTube channel?
Yes.
Okay, check it out on YouTube at Pop Culture Punks.
Yes.
Not podcast. Probably should put podcast on there because we're also going to be putting the podcast on there.
I think it's gonna be the brand.
Pop Culture Punks. Then the episodes will say Pop Culture. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, we're deliberating while speaking to the people of the world.
The people of the world.
Could you imagine if people, like government officials, did that in the middle of it? They're like, my fellow Americans. Wait, what do we say?
What are we naming this?
No, so we're not raising the taxes.
So it's not Project Kill All the People? Okay.
Wait, it's called Project Happy Sunshine Town.
We ditched the thing about killing everybody, right?
Kill all people.
Yes, you idiot! Tell us. So my fellow Americans.
Baba booey, baba booey. Then someone has to run and drag him off stage.
Oh goodness.
Do you know what I wish?
What
I
do you
still
wish?
wish during debates they would get like if someone was getting too out of line, they would just grab the giant cane and like in cartoons. And if someone was getting too like. So like when Trump was like bing bong bing bing bong, like this cane slowly starts coming behind him.
Just pulls him off stage and a new replacement just pops
Oh,
right
my
in behind
goodness.
him.
President's a little busy at the moment. Sorry.
And on the same note,
Uh-huh.
we have videos coming out.
Mhm.
So again, check that out. But we also ordered some sick stickers of our logo with our name on it. Pop Culture Punks. It's the little Game Boy logo.
Little game.
It's the
boy.
podcast art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Game boy. It's the
Boy.
game.
Game Boy boy.
Boy.
The Game Boy.
The game
So we got
BOI.
we got oh gosh. So we got some stickers coming in the mail,
Yes, sir.
and if you want one, they're free.
Absolutely free to
there's
all
some
listeners.
Yeah, to all listeners.
Limited supply though.
Free stickers, limited supply, but there's some stipulations. And the stipulations are as follows. Number 1,
Dun dun.
all of these are by email, by the way, or you could text us if you want, if you know us personally. You can win up to 3 stickers for free from us of our logo. If you won, shoot us an idea for a podcast episode.
I.e.,
No.
I'm going to throw an example so people actually know. So, podcast idea, right? So don't just say, talk about sports. What about sports? Because otherwise we're going to, okay.
Yeah, we need
fine.
at least maybe like 3 to 5 questions about said topic.
Yeah. So if you are, I guess, what's a specific example? If you really like sports games and you want us to talk about sports games, ask us, why don't you like sports games? Or ask us, what could sports games do better?
Because I'm not good at them.
They suck and I suck at them. So something like that.
Yeah, and I put a note on here saying technically nothing is off limits, but like you said, we need some boundaries.
Yeah.
And
So
there's no
nothing-
guarantee that we'll actually do any of your ideas.
So we will.
So
If your
nothing
ideas
is-
suck, we'll let you know.
Yeah.
Nothing inappropriate.
We'll just send you a singular email that just says, "Dear listener, this is a bad idea." The Pop Culture
Thanks.
Punks.
Sincerely, Pop Culture
Sincerely, Pop Culture Punks.
P.S. We'll still give you a sticker.
Yeah.
P.S. Stop listening to our podcast.
Oh goodness.
Number 2 is shoot us an email with your favorite moment so far from the podcast.
So if there's a joke or a bit that we did, or maybe even if you want to say, "I like when you guys do impressions."
Or say your favorite member. Number
Obviously
3.
me. Obviously me. 'cause
Or if
I'm
you
the
think
other
we're all
reason.
trash, you can let us know that too. And
Yeah,
we'll count
true.
it.
Yeah.
Because we got to know these things, right?
Dear listener, this is a bad idea. Sincerely, the Pop Culture
We just
Punks.
we have a CC that just like automatically sends to anything that says terrible in it.
You all suck. And you
Dear
should stop
listener, we
recording.
listen to all of your ideas. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for your input. Sincerely.
And then number 3,
Money, social security number.
that is number 4. Number 3
You said there's only
is-
3.
I added a new one based on your input. Number 3 is a silly/smart question that you have for.
I thought you were silly. I don't know why. I thought you were going to say number 3. You need a silly slide in order to ride it. I was like, what? What?
Yeah, but you should send us a silly/smart question that you have for one of the hosts,
Yeah.
or. I can't hold myself together, man. I'm falling apart.
I think I just keep thinking of
Or you could ask a question about all of us.
Yeah.
Like you could ask. I don't have any.
Who's your
ideas.
favorite member?
Who's your favorite?
Yeah, who's your favorite member?
Who's your favorite member? Wait, they're asking us who our favorite member is.
Yes, that's the joke.
Okay.
Oh.
And we have to answer it
None
on the. And the
You
fun
won't-
thing.
none
The
of
fun,
us suck.
the
I don't
fun
need-
thing is, we will answer your questions on the podcast.
Yeah.
Correct.
So
We'll start off like the next episode
with your question. So if you
Yep.
want to be featured in the podcast, do
And
that.
if
and
you're
get a
not-
free sticker.
If you're not comfortable leaving your name, you can leave like an alias,
like
or
Amanda
something.
Hug and Kiss.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
we
then
will-
we'll figure out what your real name is, and we'll put it in the podcast.
And then we'll dox you.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
We've already doxed most of our listeners.
Kinda.
Anyway.
Yeah. But you don't know that yet.
On
do you?
accident.
Yeah. Right.
No,
an
I did it
accident.
on purpose.
I think that's it.
No.
Oh.
Yeah, that is it for that topic.
So let's rehash. These will all be in the episode notes. What is it? Noticeably FAT. Rewind that track. So it is submit an episode idea, share a favorite moment from the podcast or another episode, or a silly or genuine question that you'd like us to answer
Silly
on the
or
episode.
smart. I like the alliteration, but that's okay.
So
We
if
can
you just want one, you just do one of those things. If you want two, you do two of those things. Any of the order.
If you want three, you do three
you
of
got to
them.
do all of them.
Yeah. If
But
you
they are
want
free.
more, make up a fake name and a different
Yep.
email and do the
No,
same
then
if
thing.
you
just,
want more, you
uh,
gotta buy them.
If you want more, go to redbubble.com.
Yeah, redbubble.com.
We're not frickin' Mother Teresa over here.
truth.
Well, we kind of.
And when you
We are kind.
when you
Yeah.
email us, so email popculturepunks@gmail.com, and if there's a certain place you want us to send it, so you want us to send it to your employer where you work versus your home address, just put whatever address you want us to send it to, and
Yeah.
we'll make sure it gets to you.
Again, we're gonna need your social security number. Just
But write that on the inside of
Yeah.
the letter,
Just
because
for
we don't
reasons,
want the post office to steal it.
Yeah,
'Cause
we want to make sure we're
we're
getting
gonna
it to the
steal
right
it.
people.
Correct,
Right.
because we're
Yeah.
gonna steal it,
Yeah.
not the post office people.
We are.
Oh gosh, that's funny. So yeah, that's our updates. Did you guys have anything funny or noteworthy happen to you this week?
Mm.
Let me see.
I have a quick update on the Fan P debacle.
The Fan P saga.
Yeah, the Fan P saga. I had to drop him off my roster because I needed a grass Pokemon because water Pokemon were destroying
Gross.
me. Yeah, I put gross because grass Pokemon are the bane of my existence.
You just
So-
are salty against grass Pokemon.
I'm not salty; they're just trash.
You got to cater your team against grass Pokemon then.
I do. I'm anti-grass
I
Pokemon.
call my team the Weed Killers.
Oh my god.
You should nickname one of your Pokemon Weed Whacker.
Weed.
Weed Whacker.
That'd be pretty great.
I should have named Quilava Weed Whacker.
That'd,
That'd
be,
be good.
funny. That'd be great.
So yeah, that's my update.
I had a conversation with one of my coworkers about things we were remembering. He was designing a badge for a 90s themed party. And so it had all the 90s colors and designs
like-
and everything. It was just like that.
We're rubbing that badge all over.
Give me the 90s badge.
The 90s.
You just start, you're like listening to Saved by the Bell, like, love the 90s.
90s. But we were talking about some of our favorite snacks and crazy things that
Snocks.
existed, and
Snocks.
I just realized I need to watch how I say things because I
you
definitely have a Wisconsin accent and I hate that.
What?
It's like os.
It's
Like
charming.
sometimes I do os. That
I
drives
like the
me nuts.
Wisconsin accent.
Wisconsin.
You have to embrace your heritage.
Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Embrace your heritage. You want some cheese
Cheese.
in your bag?
I do have a great story about
Some
Wisconsin
cream cheese
accent.
on your bagel?
It didn't happen over the weekend, but if we're talking about accents, while I was in Japan,
I guess we are now.
Yeah, we're-
that was the easiest tie-in.
Hey,
We're
I wanted
talking
to-
about accents.
Yeah, I wanted to
Let me talk
transition.
about Japan.
Go for it.
it's not like your transitions where we're talking about like poop jokes. You're like, so anyway, video games.
So anyway,
Sorry, I'm being salty because Phil got a little antsy yesterday when I beat him. And, well, that's spoiling the video.
I beat him in a game that
I beat him in a game that we played. That's all I'll say. Bless you.
Now that one's
I was
tainted.
playing as Red Link.
Tainted.
Red Link, baby.
That
Japanese
well,
accents.
not
From the
Japanese,
Legend of Fire Emblem.
Well, not Japanese accents. In Japan, I met a dude who was like asking about. He was a very wise Japanese man named Akira-san, and he was like, can you do the like?" His English was good. I'm just trying to like do his voice. Like, can you do the Wisconsin accent? It's very interesting. And I did, and I was like, oh yeah. And I was like with a bunch of other people from like, it was weird.
All
It
over
was
the
like
world.
all over the world. Like there was these girls from Norway that were there, and then like all the people from like the Japan trip and these other dudes. And I was just like, yeah, it just, when you start talking, it just kind of flows off the tongue, and it gets really natural once you're, drinking your coffee and you're talking with friends, and you're like, hey, this all right. And so-
This
and-
all right.
And they were like, what the heck? They were
That's
like,
awesome.
they were
I feel like that's
legitimately
more
astounded
like
by it.
Canadian or Minnesotan.
I think that's like
Wisconsin's
super
aren't
northern
quite-
Wisconsin.
It's super northern
Okay.
Wisconsin.
I think it's in a similar way. If you go closer to the border of Illinois, it gets a little more like normal, and then once you go further south in Illinois, it gets a little more southern until it just is full on Alabama.
The light switch.
The light switch.
Yeah, so
Brian Dean.
and then even like when we left, he was like, when we were leaving and saying goodbye to him, he's like, maybe when you come back, you could teach people how to do the accent. I was like, oh, I definitely could.
Sure.
I was like, yeah, I would. I
For
would
whatever
love to.
purpose that would be.
Could you imagine having like a class of Japanese students like, all right, good morning, class.
Good morning.
Ohio gozaimasu.
It is a bag.
This is bag.
Bag.
That'd be great.
No, no, bag. No, no. There was something about bag. No, bag. No. Just. None you understand the bag.
Big. Oh my god.
Like I can't cross the barrier.
I was just thinking of that. I get It's a Wisconsin version of the Chris Farley skit, but just a little bit of reverse roles.
Mother mercy, I don't speak Japanese.
Bag. Best Buy.
Oh gosh.
Just-
At Toyota. Car.
Chevy.
I drive a car.
Dream a car.
Now we sound Canadian.
I mean, that's kinda how our-
like
Ford.
Trailer Park Boys or something.
Yeah. But like that's kind of how our grandpa would always, he had like a hint of Southern, but also very like, hey, you dare, he always
Put her there.
Put her there.
What do you know?
Every time our dog was doing something, he'd always be like, hey, what do you do? What do you do?
What do you do?
What do you?
Oh my god.
That'll be the phrase I teach in class.
Because when he was he passed away from dementia, but there was just this like
That just ruined the joke.
But it's funny because they were just like
No, it's not funny.
It is. There were just certain patterns that he fell into that he would repeat certain phrases over and over and over. And so one of them is all the dogs. It was tradition that all our family dogs would line up in a perfect line, sitting down right in front of his chair. And so to get food, he'd go, "What do you do?" And he'd like lay down. And so over the course of dinner, it would be like 4 or 5 times. He'd just be like, "What do you do?
What do you do? Hey,
What do you do?
hey, Dylan, what do you do?
Dylan, what do you do?" Oh gosh. Oh, I haven't laughed that hard in a long
Nice
time.
memory.
Oh.
So anyway, video.
Papa bless GPAP.
Papa bless.
Food. You were talking about food prior.
So 90s
yeah.
food. Wow, we took a we
That was a
turn.
huge turn.
That's a podcast for you.
That's that.
But let's segue back.
So
Segue back
90s. So
to
we were talking
90s
90s food, and we were remembering because I was like, man, do you remember like Bellywashers? I was like, oh, I loved Bellywashers. Those things were so
What is a
cool.
belly washer?
It
Belly
was it was basically a horrible drink. It didn't taste good. It was like Capri Sun juice, but it was in a bottle that had characters on the top, like a full-fledged
Oh,
3 or 4
yeah.
inch like giant character
remember
on the top
now.
of the bottle.
Familiar, actually.
And
Because
so
they had
you
like
could buy-
Superman or Batman. It was
Yeah.
like
Oh.
it was like a bust of them sitting
Yeah,
or like
basically
Yeah.
just doing
yeah,
like
yeah.
an action pose, and then
Yep.
the bottle part was behind them or something, and so they were on the cap, and so Bellywashers was the branded characters on the thing.
Oh.
And I remember being kids and dying over that. That was the coolest
I
thing.
do
in the
remember
world.
that. I have
But
like a little
You get
collection.
you get a little toy with your drink.
Basically.
It's the best.
Yep.
Along
So-
with the belly wash.
So that raised the question of, were there any 90s foods or things that you guys remember that you miss?
French toast crunch.
French
Toast Crunch.
I used to love it.
Man,
So good.
I can't think of anything 90s specifically.
Do you remember I think, what were they called? They were like
Doritos 3D, yeah.
Doritos 3D. They were in that tube thing that you had to like uncap, and then they were almost like puffs. Like, do you know Bugles?
Yeah.
They were like Dorito Bugles,
Interesting.
basically.
I
Yeah.
don't think I ever had those.
Yeah, those are a trip.
Dude, baby bottle pops.
Oh.
That I remember. That takes me back.
There were some strange ones that
I remember there used to be like this tube thing. It was just kind of like a toothpaste tube,
Oh my gosh!
but it was see-through, and it was like this sour liquid.
Yes, and
Oh,
you
and you
just
pour
eat
it
it.
on
And
the-
I couldn't find it anywhere. I remember like one gas station in my whole town had it, and we would always like search for it like all the time because
I
some kid at
absolutely
school
remember.
had it. And we're
Isn't
like,
it- yeah,
we
I
want
remember that.
the one too where you like pour or like squeeze it out onto like a
Well, those are
lollipop.
juicy
Yeah.
drop.
Juicy drop pops.
Juicy drop
Oh my
pops. I don't know
goodness.
if these are all from the 90s. They're probably early 2000s.
No, those are
too,
like
but just like
2000,
that.
Yeah,
era,
that era.
That
and these
era
are
of
things
just
that aren't
strange
around
snack
anymore,
foods.
I think.
Yeah.
But I remember those. Those were
Oh,
good.
dude, there were some strange
Butterfinger
things.
BBs.
Pop rocks.
Pop rocks, yeah.
Are those
Pop
still
Rocks.
around? I think those are still
I think
around.
you can still find them, but I
Yeah.
think there was a stint where they took them off shelves because kids were doing the soda and pop rock.
The
Pop Rock
Coke,
challenge.
yeah, the Coke
Yeah.
and Pop Rock.
That was pre Tide Pod. That was back when doing stupid
Now they got
stuff
Tide
was funny.
Pods.
It's true.
Yeah, dude. Back when that was like when you were like, "Oh, my mouth is on fire." Now versus like, "Oh, I'm
I'm dying.
dying."
My insides are clean. I'm cleansing my insides.
I am Mr. Clean.
What about Bubble Jug? I was telling you about this earlier.
Yeah,
Bubble
I don't
jug.
remember.
I don't remember that.
ever remember having bubble
So
jug.
I'm trying to, like the antifreeze bottles? They're kind of like a gallon jug, but they're like weirdly shaped,
Yes,
like
yes, yes,
rectangular.
yes.
So it's like, imagine a mini one of those, like tiny. Our listeners can't see my hands, but like
So like a
it's
smaller
about,
version,
about
sure.
this, yeah. And it was just full of like bubblegum powder, like powder. And
Just
you
like
would
straight
take it
powder.
out and you would
And
Do
you
that.
and then you would put it in your mouth, and it like as you sucked on the powder, it would turn into gum.
Interesting.
Yeah,
What
it was
the heck?
really freaking weird. That's probably why
weird.
it didn't last long. But
Yeah. Well,
we loved
it was-
Bubble Jug
yeah.
because we loved bubble gum. We'd always get like those giant tubs of
Yeah.
bubble yum or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And
Or
my brother would
the-
eat it in like 2 days because he would just.
Do you
keep
remember what's
changing it out.
the? Gosh, I can't remember. Someone's about to pee real quick, so just let it slide.
Sorry, guys.
It happened last time.
Yeah, I have a tendency. We didn't want to end the podcast early.
Yeah, because we're like
All right,
20 minutes in.
get it out, Phil.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
You might need
Something's
to
going
see a
through
doctor.
You need a doctor.
Are you serious? We're talking to my wife, by the way. We're not just. There's not like a ghost.
My wife.
My wife.
Yeah, our ghost roommate. That could be a fun
That would be weird.
coffee shop for.
But yeah, there were like strange variations of gum too. I feel like we're past the era of bubble tape. Do you remember that?
Oh,
It was a thing. You had
gosh.
to unroll it
I
and you'd
love
snap it
bubble
off.
tape.
It had the crazy flavors. What was that gum that had
that bum.
that gum that had the
A
zebra?
whole new kind of bum.
The zebra brand. Oh. What? Bazooka? No, was it bazooka?
I thought it was just called zebra gum. Maybe
I
that's
thought it
just
was
what we
zebra
called it.
Are you
And it had
thinking
little tattoos on it, and you could put the
about-
tattoos
Yeah,
on
no,
you.
I think that was bazooka.
That was bazooka.
No, that was the thing. But the zebra gum, the wrappers had like a zebra pattern on it.
Oh,
And if
I
you
think
licked the
you're
wrapper
right.
and put it on you, you'd have like a little
Yeah, I
zebra
do
pattern.
remember that.
Unless that wasn't intentional, and me and my brothers were just like. But
Hey,
the bazooka
Phil.
had little comics, like little bazooka
Yeah, yeah,
comics. I loved that too. Dang, this is nostalgic.
Dude, I'm
Let's just
telling
talk
you,
about
man.
gum the whole time.
We probably could.
Yeah, welcome to the Gum Podcast.
Yeah.
This is the gum pop culture gum podcast.
Oh, Hubba Bubba though. When
Yeah.
you like just that thick cube.
Yeah. Oh, Hubba Bubba Max.
Hubba Bubba Max.
Hubba
A
Bubba.
whole new kind of bubble.
That's 2000s though, I think. Well,
Yeah,
no, I think Hubba
yeah.
Bubba was around in the 90s, but it was definitely much more relevant
Yeah.
in the 2000s.
The
I
funnest
remember
thing was
being
trying
a
to get
kid.
like a friggin' giant bubble,
Oh yeah,
and then it would pop all over your face.
that was the worst.
I've definitely had it stuck like entirely on my face. Like,
Then a parent and her child has to see this child with this
I walk in the
deformed
living
face.
room with a deformed pink face, like,
Oh, maybe that's what happened to Boo. He just blew a bubble too big, just enveloped his whole body.
Wait, what do you mean boo?
Kid Boo from
Kid Boo.
from Dragon Ball Z. He just blew a bubble so big it popped, and now he's a giant thing of gum.
That's not how he talks. I don't know how he talks.
Boo angry. Oh, boo hungry.
That was like Crash Band.
Wow,
boo, hungry.
Oh, goodness.
Anyway,
Wow,
that's all I had.
That's nostalgic.
That is nostalgic.
Speaking of nostalgia,
I was just gonna see how long we can hold it.
I was going to hold it.
I was gonna hold it too, but I couldn't.
See, that's the.
I was like looking at him, like, don't acknowledge him.
I was like, I saw my peripheral vision. You were looking at him. You were looking at me. I was looking straight at the wall. Zoned out of my mind.
I think that would have been the best transition ever that we could have done, and
Yeah.
we intentionally ruined it.
We just ended
well,
the
that's-
podcast right
that's
there.
the- no, but that's the
we've
worst.
peaked. That was
Yeah.
that was it.
That's the worst though. Is I know even from professional podcasts I listen to is I hate it when there's a long silence because I'm usually working on something and then someone is in mid sentence.
Yeah, they
and
ask, like, a
stop
serious
and they go,
question.
"Yeah, what do you think about this?"
No, do you know what they
And it's
do?
just like that, and then I'm like, "Did it end?" Like,
Yeah, you're like-
"Did my phone? Is someone calling me? Is my phone messed up?"
I know,
What
I've done
happened?"
that too.
No, do you know what I
Yeah.
hate is when they're always like, it's like, what do you think about this? Like, yeah, Then they like put their hand behind their head, like scratching, like, yeah, I mean, yeah, you know what?
And it just goes on forever.
Just like answer the question,
Oh my gosh.
Is it hot or cold outside?
even if it's a terrible
gosh,
answer. I don't.
I don't got a good one for you, man.
I don't know. So, are we gonna transition now or another awkward silence?
I don't know. You tell me.
Dang it. I thought we were. I was waiting for it to
No,
be
what we had to do is you was gonna say you tell me, and I would have sat in silence.
like, exactly. That's what I was.
So, I have one more quick question for you.
Yes.
Guys. This will transition us into video games instead of bubblegum. If developers could cover video games like
I
artists
like this
can cover
question.
songs,
Yeah.
what video game would you want to be covered by what developer or publisher or whatever? So
I would
it doesn't need to
want-
be intense, but
I would want Zelda by CD Projekt Red.
CD Projekt Red?
They're
What do
the
they do?
folks who made The Witcher.
Ooh, okay.
that'd be a different game.
That
It would.
But
It'd be Breath of
pretty
the Wild.
brutal.
Be raunchy.
Breath
Yeah,
of the
raunchy
Wild
game.
with like Witcher graphics.
Yeah.
And a little more raunchy.
Yeah. A little more violent, a little more severing of heads and limbs.
Yeah, get that Master
Yeah.
Sword, jam it through Ganondorf's heart.
Yeah.
Well, you do stab him in the head in Wind Waker. Spoiler alert.
Let's go.
Wah, wah.
I mean, that game's how old? That's one of the games I want to
Real
talk.
old.
That's one of the games I want to talk about. But
Cool.
yeah,
I put a note in here that that's the only game we can't talk about.
that we can't.
Sorry.
Why not?
Sorry. I don't know. GameCube's kind of off the list.
He's lingering salt.
That's stupid.
This is stupid. That's trash.
What game would you?
Man,
Want
if
to
I
be
could
covered?
cover, it's hard because like I would want like Nintendo to just take on a Final Fantasy game.
Ooh.
Just like I don't know how that
Alright.
would look, but it would like knowing them, it's just you can trust them. That's how I feel because every time they paired up, they made great games. So like Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars, that was Square Enix and Nintendo, and then also Chrono Trigger being on the SNES, which is another one I want to probably talk about. I'll just say like Nintendo taking on, we'll say like Final Fantasy 9 because that's more their style, and that's one of my favorite Final Fantasy games. I would do, or if, that'd be interesting. If Hideo Kojima took on Final Fantasy 7.
Oh, interesting.
That would be really
that'd
interesting.
Be wild.
Yeah. I don't know where that would go, but
That cat's a nutcase.
Kojima's the Metal Gear guy,
Yeah,
right? And he's making
he's
Death
a
Stranding now.
strange dude.
Metal Gear, Silent Hill, he's making Death Stranding now, which looks
Have you seen the trailers
phenomenal.
for that?
It looks nuts, man.
It's so weird.
Looks so good.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting game.
I
for sure.
would love to play like a really good thriller game. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
So
That'd be cool.
yeah,
But only-
I'd say Nintendo just covering a like RPG, like a famous JRPG, would be really cool.
Sure. I think it'd be really sweet to see Blizzard publish one of Nintendo's multiplayer IPs.
Ooh.
So Mario Kart or Splatoon or I can't think of any other ones that are
I think Splatoon would
prominent.
work well with Blizzard.
Yeah. But just to see even from a graphic standpoint and what kind of modes and other mechanics they could come
Yeah.
up with.
That'd be pretty dope.
crazy. Yeah, that'd
A little
be sweet.
collaboration. Let's go.
Yeah.
I think I would do probably Irrational Games, the BioShock developer.
Oh,
Covering
yeah.
doing a more linear, kind of like a BioShock-y type game, but Fallout.
Oh.
So
that
more,
would be
a little bit
sweet.
more linear,
but
but still like
narrative.
But more narrative-driven?
more narrative-driven, and
like
more
that.
like
I would-
like
I'd
'cause
play that.
my favorite thing about Fallout is like the atmosphere and the way they capture
That is yes.
the apocalyptic 50s
If it had a
feel.
more linear narrative, I
Yeah.
would probably love Fallout a
yeah.
lot. But
So I think it would
I
bring a
get-
lot more people in, and I would just like die because I love BioShock's atmosphere is so good to me.
Mhm.
So I think Fallout would be so cool, or the
Definitely.
vice versa. Bethesda doing a BioShock game, like an open world BioShock type game, would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like that takes place in Rapture or something.
Nice.
Ooh, or Gearbox, who made Borderlands, do a
Ooh.
Bioshock game.
I would
That
take
would be-
that
that
with
would
like
be
cell
awesome,
shaded
too.
art. I think that would be
that'd be
sick.
cool.
Because I was just thinking of like how Bioshock Infinite, like I loved it, but it wasn't liked by everyone. If Gearbox did like a Bioshock Infinite cover, that would be, that would be dope.
I think that
I
would
would love
that
that.
one specifically would cater well to cell shaded art.
Mhm.
That would
Definitely.
look
Well, and fitting into it, just like they would capitalize on the craziness of like the over what do you call it, like the super colonial people in.
I would love
what's-
also to have like
yeah.
a claptrap type character to contrast the craziness, and then also
Craziness.
you got like this little dude running
Got like
around
a
like,
little Abraham Lincoln robot.
Dude, some of
like
those.
Claptrap wearing an Abe Lincoln hat.
Yeah, I kind of want to go back and play Infinite.
The nice thing is it's decently short if you play it on like a medium or something.
Yeah,
And it's like a decently short game, but it's still really fun. And
oh man, just some of the combat. I remember with some of the I forgot what they're called in that game. Amps, are they, or is that something else?
Which-
I'm thinking of the powers that you get. Because
What
I
are
know
they
in the first one you get them via needle, but in
plasmids versus tonics.
I think it's tonics.
Tonics,
Because
yeah,
then it
'cause you
gives you
drink it.
salts.
Yeah,
Salts.
Oh, it's salts and
Yeah.
infinite. That's right.
but I love the one where it's the Bronco where it kicks everyone in the air and they
Yeah.
float.
And there's like,
Oh,
Yeah,
So
that was
dope.
dude. Some of those
I love doing that.
Some of those mechanics were awesome.
yeah.
So I would love all of those. Sound amazing. Freebies, game peeps.
Game
Yeah.
peeps,
Make
listen
it-
to us. Do as we say.
spend the $5 billion to pair up with each other.
I just saw an article that Activision Blizzard made $4 billion off microtransactions.
I saw that too.
Holy
I was,
crap.
I was gonna link it, but then I was like,
$4 billion.
Are we going on another
but
microtransaction?
we'll have to
No.
do a specific. We didn't do a specific microtransaction podcast, did
No,
we?
we kind of alluded to it enough.
Yeah.
We
It's
talked
kind of
about
like
it a lot.
negative press. I don't want to give microtransactions attention unless it's for a cause.
Unless it's warranted.
It's just so for them to say we made this much money on it. It doesn't really serve a purpose. I'm just mad.
It's showing other people like, hey, they're making a lot
They're
of money.
like,
let's get in on that.
$4 billion dollars.
$4 billion dollars.
$4 billion dollars.
you say.
I think we need some microtransactions.
So, as you mentioned,
Mhm.
video games, retro video games, GameCube, SNES. Today we're talking about old school gaming and nostalgia. Whatever that
Posy
means.
vibes.
Posy
Posy
vibes.
vibes,
Posy vibes
bro.
all around, bro.
Posy vibes.
Unlike yesterday. Posy
I was
vibes.
just about to say,
vibes.
where were those posy vibes?
no
You
Posy
can't have
vibes
you can't
either.
have your ups without your downs,
That's
my
true.
boys.
Preach
That's
it.
true.
Preach
Posy
it, preach it, brother. Preach it.
Preach
Posy.
that posy vibe.
Posy.
So yeah, first I wanted to start off by defining what we mean by old school gaming, because in some people's minds, old school might mean NES, Atari, arcades. In some people's minds, old school might mean SNES, GameCube, whatever.
Mm.
Old school might mean PS3, like you mentioned before.
Yeah,
So,
Mm-hmm.
what do you guys think old school is, or what is old school to you?
I can go if you're thinking.
Yeah, I've got some thoughts, but go for it.
I honestly judge like old school by like console eras and stuff like that, just because that makes it easier to kind of like put it in categories. Like, okay, well then this time when these games are coming out is this kind of way, and then this. So I would probably say honestly like PS2 era, like PS2 and GameCube era and back was like I'd consider
Yeah.
old school, because it's like if you think about it, I've been playing Wind Waker recently on the Cube, the wonderful system of GameCube. And that was made in 2002, I want to say 2001 or 2. And if you think that's 16 years ago, that's super weird to think about.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
and I'm like still enjoying it and still playing it, but I say it as like that's an old game in reality.
Mm-hmm.
But I know a lot. I was just telling Phil and Josh before we started about how there are some people that I think are actually considering like PS3 and Xbox 360 games to be old school.
I mean, when did the PS3 come out?
it was a while ago.
Probably almost 10 years.
Yeah.
I want to say
so.
360 came out in 07, 06 or 07.
So it's like 10 years.
So I think PS3 was right behind it. So it was in that
So I think
08, 07
it's kind of
era.
that's kind of why I wanted to define old school, because
Right.
it's like
Yeah.
to us that might not be quite old school yet, but like
But I think it's gonna. It shifts. It definitely shifts.
It's
when,
getting there where
yeah.
like Modern Warfare 2 and stuff is gonna be like, for me, like nostalgic and old
Sure.
school,
Yeah,
because it's just like, oh man,
it is weird because I think once like the PS5 and the new Xbox console come out, like once that generation comes, then I'm gonna be like, okay, well now like Wii and Xbox 360 and PS3
Yeah.
are old school, just because like times change. Mine, I always shift like that's 2 generations back. Yeah, 2 generations back from like the current console gen. I'd say is like old school, and then anything past that
okay,
earlier.
Yeah,
than that too.
I would agree. I would say that Xbox, PS2, and GameCube, that era and previous is all. I would say it's old school. I would classify PS3 and 360 as old gen. It's not
Yeah.
really old school. It's old gen. And I think the specific differentiation is old school comes down to sheer game design and mechanics and the types of games that were being made across those eras. Whereas
so for you, old school is more of a style.
it's a style and an
I
actual
agree with
game.
that.
than an
Whereas
actual.
yeah, because I think if you look at a lot of the games that are getting remastered and remade and brought to current consoles, I mean, there's a reason that Microsoft started with bringing 360 games to the Xbox One, and it's because people are still playing them, and a lot of the games that they're playing, there's newer versions already, in like Gears. There was a Gears 4 for Xbox One, like that exists.
So
and-
the franchises still exist. To this day.
right, and not just because I mean, there's other, like Mario, like I would say Mario's, has been from like the 80s, but then I wouldn't call Odyssey like old school. It's Mario, but it's a modern gen game.
Old school is a very interesting style to try to hone down because it's like a lot of the modern day stuff that's labeled as old school is either capitalizing on the old school or it's just like, oh, it just aesthetically looks old school.
Right, so
Yeah.
pixelated.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of things that go into it because
But even
I think now. Oh, go for it.
I was just gonna say, because if you're defining it by like a way games are being made, I feel like there's also a distinct differentiation between like old school and then old school. So like the NES, SNES, 2D platformer era versus like the 3D era where Xbox, PS2, and GameCube started
right.
doing stuff, or even N64. And
There's old
that
school,
era.
then there's old school.
There's old school.
Yeah,
So it's like retro versus old school versus like old gen
Sure.
something. But
It's all across the board.
it kind of, yeah.
It's almost like up to your own interpretation because I think back in the day it was much easier to make the distinction because there just weren't that many generations of games.
There was a distinct beginning, and it
Yeah.
wasn't that long ago.
If you were like, I think in even like the N64, GameCube gens, like if you were in that era, you can easily be like, okay, SNES. Not even SNES was still relevant like during N64 time. Like the NES was old school, Atari was old school, and stuff like that. But now that there's been so many games, and now that I think because they're more prevalent, it's hard to be like, that's old school. Because even think of movies too. Like I was just thinking how, I love The Shining, but it was made in the 80s, so it's an old school movie. But then there's also like, what do we watch for Christmas? White Christmas with Bing Crosby. That was made in the 50s. That's also an old school movie. So then where is the line drawn between, is that like old school, or is that just, it's just kind of how you interpret it.
Yeah. And I think we should also clarify too why we're making the distinction when we talk about it. So I don't know if we decided really.
Well, I
Yeah.
think I mean, I didn't say what my opinion was yet, but I think
Sure.
so far it's kind of like up to the individual person's idea of
Right.
what old school is. So for you, it might be more like how you view games from a technical perspective.
Sure.
Of, like, these games from PS2 back are old school because there was a shift in the PS3 360 generation where things were shifting more graphically and more intensely, and so we have more franchises coming and stuff. Not to say the other things didn't have franchises either that extend to this day, but it's
Yeah,
more
definitely.
from a technical
Yep.
perspective for
It's-
you.
Yeah, it's
Right.
more recent.
Because I think for me it's similar, but it's also more intrinsically tied to the nostalgia, and like the things
Sure.
that I tend to consider old school are also things that I tended to play.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting because I was talking to Evan last night because we were just talking about what we're talking about today. And in my mind, like, I see GameCube, the GameCube. I see the GameCube as more like nostalgic and retro, even though I didn't play it a ton. But like today, it feels more like retro to me, whereas like a PS2 doesn't feel like retro because it's just kind of just like the PS. I don't know. It doesn't feel the same to me for some reason.
Sure.
Even
No.
though I mostly played the PS2, so in that sense, for some reason, maybe it's because of the inherent like rarity of a lot of GameCube games and
Sure.
the collector's value behind GameCube games and GameCube in general, whereas PS2 is kind of like a lot of the games are probably went down in history as classics, but it's like
What games did you tend to play? I'm kind of curious.
on PS2,
Yeah.
Sly Cooper, Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Not a lot of. I played a lot of like Dragon Ball Z, Sly Cooper, Tony Hawk.
Did
those
you
kind of
even
games.
look at Kingdom Hearts?
No, I've yet to play Kingdom Hearts.
See, so that's
Disrespect.
I think that's what's interesting as you say that though is some of those games. I think other than Sly Cooper, and I'm sure you played Crash Bandicoot and some of
PS1,
those.
yeah.
A lot of those games I think like don't carry as much of a nostalgic value because I don't think they transcend time as
Yeah.
well. Whereas, and not to say that Sly Cooper doesn't play well, but they made new iterations on the PS3. Or
it's
they,
like nostalgic for
rebooted.
certain people.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
the character itself didn't transcend time for the general populace.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
are like, what's Sly Cooper?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
they
but,
haven't
like-
made any new games in
Which
a
is
long
interesting
time.
because then you look at Mario and Zelda and they've transcended, like,
Yeah.
he is.
You don't even need to be a gamer to know who Mario is.
Exactly.
Right, exactly. But I think for me, why the GameCube is so nostalgic is one, it was one of the systems we had growing up, and I remember that was Saturdays. Like Saturdays is just playing
true.
Cube.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I think the specific games that we tended to play were Custom Robo. It was SSX Tricky, which I mean was
I used to play that on
cross-platform
PS2.
and stuff like that. NFL Street 2, which
Mario Sunshine.
yeah, Mario
Zelda,
Sunshine,
Wind Waker.
Yep.
Do you remember? I was just thinking the other day, what's that one game we had? It was like, we thought it was so cool when we were little, but it's probably utter
Amazing
trash.
Island?
Amazing Island.
Yep.
Ugh.
Yep.
I was just thinking about
I need
that
to
the
find
other
a copy
day.
of that somewhere.
It was so, like, thinking back, I was like,
So
wow, that was
crazy.
not a good game.
No,
but we
but
thought
it's-
I think it was the customization of monsters.
That
and
would be a
stuff, though.
great Let's Play game.
That would be
playing it.
fun. I would love to go back to games that, like, when I was young, I was like, oh, this is so cool. And then be like, oh, jeez.
So what you
wrong with
do? So to fill you in, I keep realizing
you
that
in?
how many times I say fill, like just I'm gonna fill this in. Oh, I gotta fill this out, and then
Fill you
it's
in.
like, oh, I'm gonna fill you in. I'm like, ah. But what you would do is you're on this island. You have to compete in these almost basic mini game challenges, but you do it with this monster that you get to draw and design basically. And you get different skeletons of characters that basically fill in, so you can draw around the skeleton, and then it kind of fills in their design or whatever. And it was when you're a kid, it's so cool because you get to
You're creating something,
I'm
yeah.
gonna give him this thing. It's gonna look like this. But when you see,
Then reality hits.
they're like these strange polygons, all kind
Hideous,
of
awful creatures.
Yeah,
that
just
do
very
not deserve
strange
to
looking.
exist.
Yeah, it's come me. But yeah, it was just so funny. It was just one of those weird games. But with a lot of those, I think I tend to see my nostalgia attached to games that I can't experience anything else remotely similar to it at all. So I have never experienced Turtles or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Hyperstone Heist in any modern game ever. Like the best brawlers are all on the Sega Genesis. That's just a fact. And a few of them which were cross-platform on
SNES.
the Super Nintendo.
Turtles in
Would
Time.
would you
Turtles in
differentiate
Time
a
is
brawler
great.
from a fighter?
As in
Like a fighting
Street
game?
Fighter?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, brawlers.
Because are
A
there
brawler-
even any brawlers like
No,
that
there
exist,
was
really?
one that came out recently from the publisher of Hotline Miami, Mother Russia Bleeds, I think. But I've looked
heard of
into it, but it's just not the same. Like the art isn't as cool. The aesthetic is interesting, but it's just very unnecessarily violent and bloody.
Yeah,
and-
it's interesting that brawlers do evoke a very 90s thing. I was just watching a YouTube video from really good YouTuber, if you want a really interesting analysis guy, Super Eye Patch Wolf. He was doing an analysis thing on like the fall of The Simpsons and stuff, and he was talking about like 90s culture and was saying how for 90s kids, The Simpsons, or like during the 90s, The Simpsons was like the most relevant thing, like in terms of just being in almost all like aspects of media, and especially the like Simpsons cartoon, like I forget what it was, but it was like a brawler with the Simpsons in it.
Oh, it was in the arcades and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
That's what he's talking about. He was saying
Absolutely.
that was like a staple for arcades back in the 90s and stuff like that.
Geeks Mania has that.
Does it really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
It's so fun.
I remember we played
We
the
gotta go
Turtles
there
one.
again.
I would
Absolutely.
love to. I've been really itching to I've been listening to all these people talk about arcades and stuff. I'm
Yeah.
like,
It's
oh.
super fun.
But but exactly. So that you're not getting a hilarious. People just don't like developers don't do that with modern shows anymore. You know, like it would have been so cool to get a Gravity Falls brawler. You know, if you like,
That'd be pretty fun.
If
it was done well enough, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But you just kind of think of the aesthetic and how it works. There's just not that I don't want to say like, oh, you know, the pinky up. There's not as much creativity. It's in modern days, but I'm not. There's not going to be a TV show that makes a video game that's actually really, really, really good of itself. That is completely detached. You know, like Ninja Turtles had its own 3 or 4 of its own games, and it had one on the NES. It had it on Genesis, Super Nintendo,
Yep.
an arcade machine. Like there were just like good game. They were just
Yeah.
awesome. So I think for me, brawlers are super nostalgic games just because people just don't make them anymore. And there's been a few outliers. Like I know, it was on the 360. It was something Knights, but
Oh, is that the little cartoon?
yeah,
guys?
yeah.
That was big back in the day.
Yeah, so I know that
360.
one was a pretty big deal, but again, just the style and how it operated and the gameplay and stuff.
I think the problem is the way that brawlers work. They like need that 2D pixel art to like have the same feel, because as soon as you introduce the 3D,
Do you think
into it,
so? There's some that do really well though, even though they're not like 2D pixel art.
I mean, maybe, but I'm talking in reference to like the nostalgia factor of like
yeah,
as soon as you
yeah.
introduce the 3D factor, then you're just walking down hallways beating things up.
Yeah.
Whereas with a brawler, you're not necessarily seeing
yeah.
the perspective that you might see on a 3D plane.
Yeah.
Because like
In your mind, you're registering like, if I'm playing in 3D already, why not I just like actually be able to have free movement?
yeah,
and just
so
move
it's
around
kind of
like
like you
that,
don't
yeah.
realize you're being restricted in a 2D environment
Right.
necessarily, because it's
Yeah.
like the point is to beat up.
Yeah.
But maybe adding that 3D aspect
remember,
kind of like delegitimizes it a little bit.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you remember Metal Slug?
Oh,
I
heck
I
was
yeah.
just saw a GIF of that
Dude,
today.
I
Like the
love-
animation looked
Metal
amazing.
Slug was hilarious.
back in the
game
day,
was
but
fantastic.
back in the day, that was great too. That was
Yep.
another good example of
Yep.
side platformers and not really beat 'em ups per se, but just that kind of. Yeah, I think it is interesting thinking that was like a really good point that I agree with, is that games that evoke nostalgia are games that just deliver a certain experience that you can't really get anywhere else. And I was just thinking of how like the modern 3D platformers and stuff like that, like that's what I think the platform games are super nostalgic. Like Super Mario Sunshine I've been playing, Super Mario 64, which is very good. I remember being a kid and thinking it was like one of the hardest games, but but it's super fun. Like I think for its time, the controls are incredible. I didn't realize how revolutionary it was until I was actually like playing it, being like, dang, this came out in like the early 90s, yet it still holds up gameplay wise. And playing like Banjo-Kazooie too and whatnot. And that's why I love A Hat in Time so much. And one of our earlier episodes, I was praising it so much because it captures it so well, but has such a perfect blend of like the gameplay and the nostalgia evoking elements of 3D platformers, but has a modern look to it. And I think that's like the perfect like line to have, and that's the perfect encompassing thing to have with your game. If you're wanting to evoke nostalgia, if you're wanting to like sell it as this, this game was inspired by nostalgia stuff, or this game was inspired by the games that we used to play when we were younger, want more of nowadays.
Yeah.
So
That's one thing I've been noticing with games a lot. I try and recreate nostalgic experiences I've had with like Sly Cooper and stuff, and it's like these games that no longer exist. And so you try and play other games like other 3D platformers and stuff, and it's like these are fun, they're good, but it's like you never really get that actual feeling
Yeah, it's
back.
not the exact same thing.
Yeah. So
which is weird because not all games do that. I was playing Jack and Daxter 2 semi recently, and I remember as a kid loving it and thinking it was so cool, but then I like was playing it, I'm like, this is actually kind of boring. It's not as fun as I remember it
and
being.
sometimes the nostalgia is ruined because
you're
like, this isn't as good as
You're
I
looking at it with
remember
tinted glasses, thinking that it was like, oh man, I love this when I was a kid, I should love it now. But your tastes change. That's what happens when you get older.
Exactly.
So
did you have something to say too?
I think I lost it.
Okay.
That's cool.
yeah.
I just.
Yeah.
So with nostalgia, do you think something I think about a lot is with anything, but with video games specifically with nostalgia, do you think it tends to be towards like trying to live in the past and like trying to re-experience like, oh, I'm just basically like if you're always playing games that are nostalgic, if you're always playing games that are old games that make you feel nostalgic, are you like living in the past and not experiencing new things? Or is there something inherently better about old games? Or is your vision tainted by your nostalgia?
I think, personally, that just taking my long pauses to think. No, I personally think that like there's something about old school games that just makes them inherently playable and replayable. Because I think I play more old school games than new school games, but I try to balance it too. Like I play Overwatch, I've been playing like Persona 5 and stuff, Nier Automata, but like I've also been playing on the side too, like Pokemon Emerald Mario 64 and stuff like that, and Super Mario Sunshine on the GameCube. There is just something, just like they were trying really hard to make good games, and like they're doing that today too. But I think the games that like have the nostalgia value but live up to that are just good enough that I'm like I think we talked about it in one of our earlier podcasts, like when we first started the show, that it's the time investment of like I'm less willing to like go and try to purchase the new Far Cry 5. Like I love Far Cry 4, but I'm less tempted to like buy the 5th one because it's like, yeah, like it'll be good, but like, you know, am I really gonna like it? Whereas I can be like, oh well, I already spent the money on Pokemon Emerald, why don't I just sit down and play that right now?
Because you know what you're gonna get.
Because I know what I'm gonna get.
Yeah.
And it's every time I still enjoy it. If I play too much, then yeah, but if you already have so many nostalgic games to just kind of be like, oh, I'll just start this over again, or I'll play a new game on this, then, you know, then you can do that on top of having new games to play and stuff.
So it's
like
almost
that.
like a time money thing.
That's what I would say.
A little bit.
Yeah.
That's kind of what
Which
it
is
for
funny
me
because
too,
like
yeah.
old school games are like the most expensive.
Yeah,
they're ridiculous.
A lot of them are, yeah.
I still want a copy of Earthbound, but it's still $200 for just the cartridge.
Loose cart, yeah.
So yeah,
I, from a philosophical standpoint,
Oh,
see,
boy.
I did it again. There it is.
here we go.
Here we go.
Get the scribes ready to write down this wisdom.
It's
We should publish a book called Josh's Podcast Wisdom. Just like little quotes from Josh.
It would be like, yeah.
It's King Solomon actually who says something in Ecclesiastes about the world not
Bible
being
reference. Sorry.
well, it's like it's like I'm not trying to
Getting
like make it.
religious.
It's more. He literally says something like, "You can't. It's foolish to look on the past in the present and say how foolish all that stuff was, but then also to be wary of the future." And it's. I can't remember the verse, and I should know it, but it's essentially the idea that it's foolish for people to look on the past and be like, "Oh, remember." That's what it is. It's, oh well, remember how good the old days were? Like, man, the modern days suck. It's so much worse, and it blah blah blah. Which I mean, I'm super guilty of, but
Yeah, I mean,
that's
yeah,
like
I do
why
that
we
every
do
day.
this. But yeah, right. You're like, man,
That's why we
remember-
started this
remember
podcast.
we used to
The
watch,
early
go home and
2000s.
watch Rocco's Modern Life and
Yeah.
eat cereal, but I think it's a strange balance where there's nothing wrong with remembering great things about the past, but in the same way, nostalgia, I only remember the good stuff because I've experienced everything, and I can look back on the things I experienced and say, well, I'm going to remember these specific things because those were good things. There were terrible games I remember too, and I remember long stretches of time where there were just games that I really wanted to play, but I couldn't because it was, you know, like I wasn't old enough, or like my friends, you know, only played this, and so there are other games that just weren't good at all either. So to see the past, all of the past with rose-colored glasses, I don't think is fair either. But I also don't think it's good to say like, look how archaic all these old, you know, games where they only had 2 buttons on the controller. Plebs. But I think I enjoy nostalgia, and I enjoy old games because there's just, I think it's adding on to what you said, Zach. I agree totally that it's an experience that I know I'm going to replicate and do. I think it's also, there's something strangely satisfying about doing something again and just like not having to pause.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
it's like, it's really weird, but because I remember even with like Kingdom Hearts 1, I beat Kingdom Hearts 1 last January. I had never beaten the game before, but it was really fun because that was one of my most nostalgic game series was in middle school playing Kingdom Hearts, but then sitting down and knowing, all right, I go to this world and I do this and just like going and doing all the things.
Replaying it now actually gave you a better realization of how good of a game it was.
Exactly, because
Yeah,
I didn't have
I was gonna go into
I didn't
that.
have to figure it out. I didn't have to sit and analyze, okay, do I have to do this? Like, okay, what Pokemon, you know, so if I were to go back and sit down and play Ruby, I would totally know, all right, I got to go get this water type from over here to go do this. And there's something just fun about remembering how to do that and to do that, you know.
But in the same way, I think for me, it's almost like a part of the experience is taken away from you. Like you can never relive that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you can never relive exactly what it feels like to never having played Ruby before.
Yeah.
But
the
reason you go back to it then is because it's separated. And
Exactly.
You're like, wow, this is a good game. I know how to play it.
And that's, I think, going back to that Ecclesiastes quote, I think that's why it's good that you do have modern games and that you do engage with modern games too, and don't just stick to just retro stuff, because there is a reality that as a result of all those other games, there have been awesome other games that people have made and have developed and formulated. And so you can look objectively at some of the things and be like, yeah, this is really good, and this kind of builds off of this idea and blah, 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 and adds in new flavors to this developer style. But ultimately, I think it's a balance, and I think just like everything, there's always a leaning towards the extremes. People are, oh, well, the old stuff is just, there's no point in playing modern stuff. It all sucks. And then there's other people who are, Call of Duty's the greatest game ever made, and, you're not
Are there
playing.
still people? I'm not.
I don't
heard that
think
in a
so
while,
as
but-
much, but I think it's also
I
because
think there's definitely people like that.
There always will be.
Yeah.
But, and not just, not to pick on Call of Duty, but really like any modern game, there's like PS4, like, yeah, you only play like modern consoles. You only play PC. You only do this.
Yeah, I've definitely met people like that.
Yeah, and
that's kind of like the modern gamer. Like, I feel like most like modern gamers in pop culture, it's like, why play old stuff when I can play
the newest graphical
HD resolution
whatever.
PS4 games,
the newest
4K,
nicest
whatever.
looking
and it's
thing.
kind of like the invert of what we're arguing of like, we don't want to spend all of our time and money on new games that we might not enjoy when we know we're going to enjoy the old games.
Yeah.
Whereas the other side of the spectrum is, why waste all my time on these old crusty games when I know I'm going to get a good graphical fun experience out of new
Right.
games, because
Yeah.
I don't have time and money to, basically you don't have time and money to enjoy all the new games and all the old games. So you have to like
Balance.
choose one or
Yeah,
the
just
other,
balance.
or balance.
Yeah.
I've realized
So.
too that replayability is such a huge thing
Mm-hmm.
for like discerning a favorite game, because I was just thinking about that, of like these people that are coming like, well, this game looks so amazing, and it's like, okay, well, come back to me like 3 years later, play the game again, tell me what you think. And there's so many people that like will like, back in the day would say that this game was incredible, but then come back now and it's like, it hasn't aged that well and it hasn't done that well. That's why like most games that came from the 90s or early 2000s or even 80s too, like just have aged so well, and that you can just replay them and still enjoy it. That's why I put the Game Boy Advance Fire Emblem, I always say, is like my favorite game of all time, because I have played that game probably 7 or 8 times. That's the most I've done for any game, but I enjoy it every time. And just the formula, and like I could, I don't need to go into the logistics of it. Sorry, we have Josh's noisy neighbors.
That's
If
all
you
right,
hear
yeah.
some little kids running around,
Yeah.
Chitter
being
chatter.
raucous.
Yeah. No, but I think you're exactly right. And I think that's why when we were also talking about the multiplayer stuff, and I made the point of looking at a top 10 list of greatest games of all time and why no multiplayer titles would be on there, is because those are a product of the generation that they're in. Because there are games that were like, I think it was Mag on PS3. Like, no one probably knows it, but Mag, it was a huge. It was designed to be 100
Yeah,
v 100.
I remember that. I think I got that game actually.
Yeah, and so there were games like that, but it's like less than 50 cents, I think, because they literally killed the servers and you can't play it anymore. It's
Yeah.
not playable.
Well, I think it's interesting because you said most games from the past or whatever have replayability, but I think most games don't have replayability. It's the ones that have survived and like
Survived the
still
ages that
exist
still hold
now.
up, yep.
That have replayability. But if you looked back at all of the games that were released, there's probably a lot of trash and shovelware.
Oh yeah,
and
but that's
all this stuff.
bound to happen.
And the
That's even
ones
today.
yeah, exactly. So like the ones that have survived, it's not just nostalgia that's dragging them along by their coattails. It's like replayability.
These were
and,
actually
like,
good
there's,
games,
There's
yeah.
something to it.
Yep.
And people aren't just insane playing old, crusty old games.
crusty old.
Crusty
Yeah.
old games.
I mean, that's why, because like most of the games on my top 10 list are from like the old era or like older gen eras and stuff like that, and that's why I stand by the fact of like it's a replayability factor. Of like, I've been playing Wind Waker again and I'm enjoying every second of it, even though I've played it through like 3 or 4 times, but it still holds up as an amazing game. But like, I'm trying to think of another game that like I bought recent that's like a new gen. Like if I beat Borderlands 2, although it was a super fun ride, I don't think I'd immediately go back in and try to play another file. Or better yet, better example, Far Cry 4. I really liked playing through, or Bioshock Infinite even. That's like, because we were talking about it. As soon as I beat Bioshock Infinite, like I enjoy the entire thing all the way through, but like I haven't really had a huge urge to replay it until like we were just been talking about it these past couple weekends.
I'd replay it immediately.
That's just taste though. That's
Yeah.
when it gets down to that thing of like, what am I willing to, and like we were saying before, the time investment too, because there are some people that are willing to invest the time and money into a new game and just take a gamble on it. Whereas I think for all three of us, we tend to go the safer route of like, okay, I got some downtime. Let's plug in some hours into Pokemon and just grind and get through the game and have some fun or stuff like that.
Mhm.
So
Totes.
Oh,
Totes, my goats.
Sideshow Bob. Hello, Bot.
Hello, bot. The bot, the.
Don't you have a tattoo that says "Die Bot Die"? No, it's German for
The
Bot.
bot.
The.
The bot, the.
Okay, Phil's losing his mind over there.
what?
Now you good, son?
I'm good. I'm here.
Apple
I'm all
turnover.
alive.
Don't just
Apple
host.
turn.
You gotta interact.
Don't just host. Just post.
Don't host.
Post Malone.
Post.
Posty. Where's my Bud Light, my damn?
Oh, gosh. Dude, I can't believe that guy with how rich he is loves Bud Light.
I know it's
How
hilarious.
much he loves Bud Light.
Isn't he from
It's
like
crazy.
Dallas or something?
Dilly post. Dilly.
Dilly post. So moving from discussing and defining what the old school is, what are some of your guys' favorite old school or nostalgic games?
The meat of the conversation.
Based on how you define old school.
Based on how
So
I
it'll
define
probably be
old school.
different for every one of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my fave. This is a gem that's pretty uncommon, but Beautiful Joe.
Beautiful Joe.
Beautiful
When's the last
Joe.
time you played Beautiful
I
Joe?
played it.
You played it last year?
I played it last year.
We were gonna do a Let's Play series on it, I
Yeah.
think, at one point.
Yeah, dude, that
was the
Beautiful
game.
Joe. As much as we were just talking about the brawler, and because I guess you could technically call it a side-scrolling brawler, but it's just got these mechanics that
It's stylized so
it's
well.
stylized
It's
so
distinct.
well, and I think that's exactly what I was referring to in why the modern brawlers don't live up to some of the older stuff, even from the Genesis or the Cube and things like that, and the PS2 is. There was just there was the mechanics where you could roll through past enemies, you could speed up time, there was a dodge, there was a jump duck mechanic, so it would actually give you cues where if they were gonna punch high, it would show a little icon, and then you'd time it and you'd drop, and then if you dropped, they would dizzy, and you could press the slow time, and then you could just beat the snot out of them until you got their health all the way down, and then they'd fly off, or you could speed it up to. So there's just this whole system that made it so much fun to play, and but there's not like a side-scrolling game like that, and Beautiful Joe basically did they make 2 or 3 games?
They made a bunch of spin-off games. I forgot what they were, but
I think it was just.
I think they made like 3 or 4. There was like 2 on the DS. There was like a couple on the
right, but there weren't like
Wii.
mainstay.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is there were
Beautiful
spin-off
Joe
games?
yeah, and Beautiful Joe was just such a strange game character.
He was a cool mascot character.
Yeah, he was,
I enjoyed
and
him a lot.
so I kind of miss, and I think that's also why I'm listing him as like an old school nostalgia character. Is the only things he's popped up in are like Marvel vs. Capcom games, and
Is that
spin-off
Capcom?
things. Yeah, he's a
Beautiful
Capcom.
Joe?
Yeah. So, but I want to say the first one was GameCube exclusive, right?
Yep, it was just
So-
GameCube.
Yeah. So the first one was a cube only game, and I still have it.
Dang.
That
Yeah, I
was
remember
mine.
you.
That was
I think
mine.
we played
And I
it.
bought
When I
it
was
from you.
dumb and didn't understand the
naive.
value of good
He
games.
sold it to me,
Let's go.
and I ain't never given it back.
I think we played it that one day when we played Parappa the Rapper.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
Parappa the Rapper.
Parappa
The lettuce.
That game
Chop
was
the
ridiculous.
lettuce. I gotta believe.
I couldn't believe my eyes when I was playing the
Oh
game.
my
was
God.
I know.
this
I
is
remember.
every
I
bit as
remember because we were
ridiculous
trying
as
to
it
do a
was.
let's play, and like both of you guys are just dead silent, and I was like, "Haha, wow, this is weird." And both of you just like,
Whoa,
I was
spaghetti, huh?
Whoa, spaghettios.
Well, that's why the Mega 64 video where they go out in public and he's just walking around in the costume and he's like, on the phone, so no one thinks you're alone, but you're not alone. You got me. You got the air. You got the trees. It's like that's Parappa the
That is-
Rapper to
yeah.
a T, just rapping about the stupidest things happening
Yep.
in the moment.
I remember there was one where you were just like making cheeseburgers or something.
Yeah,
that's
that's what it was.
literally the first
Yeah.
one, yeah.
Gosh.
Oh,
Oh, good
Lord.
times, man. All the early Kingdom Hearts probably falls into the old school category. Too, I
Yeah,
would
Kingdom
say.
Hearts is up there too.
That's well, I've always told people that's probably one of your favorites, all-time favorites.
Which is really weird. I think it's just, again, there hasn't been any kind of strange crossover like that in a long time. Because you had Final Fantasy in there, you had the original Kingdom Hearts cast in there. You
Got
had all the
Disney?
Disney
What the
stuff.
frick?
Yeah, and then with the announcement that Monsters Inc. is going to be in the new one too.
Yeah, dude.
Oh,
That one is shaping up to be a.
oh.
And you still haven't played like
I haven't played
final.
2, yeah.
Well, you haven't played Final Chapter Prologue, which is
Right.
like not demo, but it's like
What
style.
it's gonna be.
Style wise, that's how it's gonna be, and it's so good. It feels amazing. All right, so did you have any other ones that you were thinking of, or just
That's
those?
it, son.
That's
only
the
tho-
only
only
game.
only those two.
No, I mean there's plenty of
I mean, I
others,
guess we
but
could
I'll
talk
probably
about it forever, but-
I'll
Yeah.
piggyback off of any games that you play because otherwise
Okay.
we could literally spend
I know. I
a
could
whole
go.
another
How about we each
episode.
do like one or two, and then we keep going around and
and then we can just kind of
Alright.
round.
That I could
I
do.
almost said then we can red robin and
Red
round robin.
Red
round
Robin.
robin.
Red
Round
Robin.
Robin.
The loser of
Roundabout.
the first round jumps down to the second round.
red robin.
Red Robin. You really red. Red.
My robin. Red robin.
Oof.
I like.
Let's see.
Burgers.
If I was to go, I know you're the host, and I appreciate your work.
Yum.
And I appreciate your work.
I appreciate all your work.
But
shut your yapper.
Shut it. Out of the top, is top 5, top 4. Out of my big list of, or not big list, 10. My list of 10 games. The ones that I'm gonna note, and I'll talk about like 2 of them. Fire Emblem for the Game Boy Advance, Legend of Zelda: Wind Waker, Chrono Trigger for the SNES, and then Earthbound for the SNES. And then there's a lot of other ones too that like Donkey Kong Country is another one.
Oh, Donkey Kong.
Yep, that
1,
was
2, or 3.
I say 1 actually. 2, I think I played more, but I think going back and playing them, I liked the style. I liked the music and the style of 1 more. It just almost evoked a little more nostalgia.
Sure.
I like the soundtrack more to 1 than
I think I
did
kind of
2.
like 2. I like Diddy and Dixie. That was
Yeah.
that was a fun combo.
Also, playing Dixie made the game so much easier.
Oh, yeah, it did.
Like a heck of a lot easier.
Yeah.
I think Donkey Kong Country is one that I'll talk about just because like that. Because I was gonna do like Chrono Trigger and Earthbound, but those are both RPGs. Donkey Kong Country. Every time I play it, I like only can get to like the third world, and I just can't get past it because it's so freaking difficult. But it's such a like huge nostalgia trip every time I play one of the Donkey Kong Country games because that is what we had on the SNES growing up when we were younger, was playing that and and like Star Fox and those games. So the SNES is like I see as like the pinnacle of nostalgia for me because the majority of the games on like my list, or like majority of games I go back to and play consistently, are SNES games.
Mm-hmm.
And Donkey Kong Country, if you know, it's such a great platformer. It's pinnacle. And Yoshi's Island 2 is another one that's really good.
That's another good one.
So Chrono Trigger, I would say I put that and Earthbound always contend for each other because they're both really, really good in their own right. But I think Chrono Trigger is honestly a little bit more easy than Earthbound. And I like Chrono Trigger's like style and in terms of like gameplay and turn-based stuff because like Earthbound's like first-person turn-based, which sounds really weird and it kind of is boring to look at, but like everything else makes it much better. So Chrono Trigger is one that I consistently just start a new file if it's been too long. Because like I had one where I plugged in like 22 hours, but then I like stopped playing and I was like, I guess I'll just start a new game. But I'm willing to because it's like consistently the beginning is super fun and super interesting. And like looking at that game, it was revolutionary. It's ridiculous how many things in that game, like you can look like it almost like outshines the modern day stuff where it's like, oh well, our game does this, and it's like, yeah, well, Chrono Trigger was made in the 90s and it had introduced time moving backwards and forwards in time and actually affecting the world around you. And it had like, I know one of the really cool instances, and I think I talk about this on the Old School, like one of our really, really early episodes. In the very beginning, you can like, there's certain little things you can do. It's like there's like a little lunchbox and you can like steal it from this old man without him looking, or like, you don't help this girl find her cat, or like, you cheat in this race. You can do these things and and just have fun with it. But then like there's a part in the game, this is really early on, you get captured and you're like in court being tried, and the people actually come in and are like, yeah, that's the guy that stole my lunch. You're like, oh, that's the guy that didn't help me out. And you're like, oh, my actions have consequences. And that's like something I think was not at all relevant at that time.
Yeah.
And
I think even now they haven't really nailed that down because Mass Effect kind of has that system.
But it's so convoluted by all the...
Well, there's no consequence. Like there's...
Yeah. It's almost like
There's
you can either be a
results.
nice dude or just the biggest douchebag on the entire planet.
Yeah. Absolutely. But yeah, no, Chrono I think was definitely a revolutionary game for RPGs. And
Yeah.
even just the game style and like how it's a little bit flashier than just your standard Final Fantasy turn.
And it's incredible, and the story's incredible. And the dude who did like, I forget who he worked with specifically. Well, he worked with like Square Enix or Square at the time, but the guy who did like the art and stuff was I think is
Dragon
it
Ball.
Yeah, Akira Toriyama.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was that dude. So it was.
Who made Dragon Ball?
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
if you think
And
that's
Dragon
like
Quest or whatever those games are.
yeah, the
same
Dragon
art.
Quest game. So
Yeah.
it's like a beautiful trinity of you got Nintendo, Square, and Akira Toriyama all coming
Yeah.
together for this RPG, and it still stands. It's like people say one of the best RPGs of all time.
Yeah.
So
Is that on the SNES Classic?
It's on a lot of different
It
things.
is not, sadly.
I'm gonna have to
I
have
know a
my
lot of
SNES.
people were really angry about that.
I saw another SNES Classic at Best Buy, and I was so
I know.
tempted to
I
ask
saw one
if
at
I
Best
could
Buy
get it so I
over
could.
Christmas. I remember seeing like 3 sitting there on the shelf. I'm like, what is going on?
Is
right
no one
now?
going to buy these?
Yeah, I was like, should I buy these? And I looked on eBay just to make sure they weren't selling for like $400 or something.
Yeah.
Are they back down to like normal price?
They were like $130. So I was like, if I bought one and tried to resell it, I'd just get $90 basically after fees and shipping and stuff. So
Yeah.
but I wanted to buy a second one to
want
hack.
Exactly.
But I might just hack my main one.
I'm
do it,
thinking
'cause
about
I wanna
it.
play
I'm
Chrono
a
Trigger
little,
really badly.
I'm a
Yeah.
little nervous too.
I don't want to do the. I mean, well, I have the original copy, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
you
you can also get it on the Vita though. It's on
Oh,
the Vita.
really?
Yeah, it got ported to the PlayStation 1 and
So
on
I've
the,
heard
I
that
and the
version
DS.
is trash compared to the DS though.
Yeah, the DS version's very, very good. I think
Really?
if you're going to play it, either do the DS version or the original version.
That's kind of why
That's
I want
nice.
to get it on the SNES, just so I can experience like the original
Yeah.
version. But
That's why I love it.
I've heard the DS adds like a prologue or something.
It does. It adds a little bit nicer menu choosing options and stuff because, like, on the original SES, don't have multiple screens, and it's like you just have to, like, it's kind of blocking your vision. I
Oh,
mean, it's
really?
not that bad because it's an RPG. It's like you're just gonna choose attack almost
Yeah.
every time, but it is a little bit of a hindrance, but it's so easy to get by once you get used to it.
Sure.
So that's a game that evokes huge nostalgia for me in terms of, I didn't really play it when I was younger, but I see it as a game that has stood the test of time and has huge replayability. And I'd probably say for a lot of I know plenty of people that like look at Chrono Trigger as one of their favorite games of all time because they were 90s kids growing up and playing that. So, yeah,
Nice.
that's what I got. What about you,
Cool.
Philly D?
I mean, the most obvious one is Pokemon, but I won't go into that because everybody already knows that.
Well, and all three of us too.
Yeah.
We could do like, well, we did do
We
a
already
whole
did a
Pokemon podcast.
We could do a Pokemon nostalgia one at some point. But I would say I played a lot of handheld because I always had whatever Nintendo handheld existed at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I usually didn't always have a console until PS2, and then I finally like started getting consoles more. But I distinctly remember playing the SNES a lot when I went over to my dad's girlfriend's house at the time, and they had SNES, and we would play Donkey Kong Country, which is super nostalgic now. When I play it, like that music just takes me back. Oh, so
Dun,
good.
dun, dun,
And all the
dun.
noises like oh, and like bloop, bloop. Yeah.
Or when you get,
oh gosh,
I think my favorite is still when you hit it. One of
Cranky
the
Kong.
no. Geez, why can't I like the or the crocodile dudes?
Oh,
I forget what they're.
yeah. So that game's
That's exactly every time. And then
So
when
like-
you get 3 in succession, it's beautiful.
so yeah, that game's super nostalgic for me. Super Mario World is another one. I've been replaying that lately. It's very hard, but
Yes.
super fun. Also, I didn't realize that you have to like get a checkpoint before you die. Otherwise, you have to keep restarting until the last checkpoint. So I kept. Oh my gosh, it's Dark Souls.
It's the Dark Souls of Mario games.
Basically.
But yeah, that one's super nostalgic, but super fun. It's very satisfying when you finally get to the next thing. And I got Evan hooked on that, so
Nice.
she's
Awesome.
I think she's almost caught up to me actually. But we haven't played we haven't played since Christmas because just busyness. Another one I just remembered was I loved playing Oracle of Seasons on the Game Boy Color.
Yeah, buddy. Legend
I
of
had
Zelda.
those games. And I remember I had them originally when they came out, I think. Played those. I think I beat them. And then I sold them, and I just remember buying them a couple times throughout the years. Like, man, I really want to play that again, and then buying them and selling them repeatedly.
It's on the eShop now, so you can go check it
so
out.
I actually think I have them both. So I've been playing those. So I always loved the Game Boy Zelda games. I've never played the 3D Zelda games until Breath of the Wild. So
Oh, dude,
you're
some of those
missing
are.
out.
and that's the thing is too. We were discussing before, like the GameCube. I feel like credence to your guys' opinion about GameCube era stuff is I never really grew up with the nostalgia for that era. But I still have like this burning desire to like buy a GameCube and play all those old school games because of how like highly rated they are and stuff. So
Yeah, some of those are
Yeah,
just absolute gems. I wish this is one of the franchises I wish Nintendo would reboot. I don't know if they ever will, but Custom Robo.
Yeah.
That was one of the coolest games ever. It was the whole premise was you did this thing where you would fight with these little robots that you'd get, but you could get different body types, you could get different weapons, different
is it
all
like
sorts of
robots or like
they're
those
like
little battle
miniature.
robots
They're like
where you
little
have
miniature.
blades and
No, no,
stuff?
no. It's like if I showed you gameplay, it's like straight up like almost like mini. It sounds hokey to say, but like mini Gundams kind of.
Yeah.
And you'd like
They look
be in
like
this
it-
little
yeah.
arena thing, and you'd have to like fly around and then like nail the other
It was
guy.
a
and-
super fun arena
Oh
fighter.
my gosh, it was so awesome.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those games where if they could
It had a really
bring
good
it
story
back-
too.
Yeah, it was a cool premise and stuff. But if they could bring that back with like modern graphics and maybe some added mechanics and different variations and stuff.
One thing I do remember, that game has one of the longest cutscenes.
That-
or no,
oh
one of
my
the
freaking
longest
gosh,
like
yeah.
spouts of dialogue ever. Which is like it's like an interesting thing, but like it definitely reaches a point where you're like, this. All right, so kid you not, it goes on like you're reading all this stuff for like probably about like 20 minutes.
You can't skip it.
Nope.
Well, I mean you can, but you want to hear the story.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, all right, what's
At
you
that
know,
point, I'm like, I'll look it up on YouTube.
but then you're just gonna watch it on YouTube.
I'll put it on 2x speed.
Okay. There's
Doesn't
literally
it auto saves.
Yep, it goes on so long it asks you to
save.
save, and then it does it shares the
keeps
second
going.
part.
He's like, I have more to say, but would you like to say first?
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Custom
Oh my
Robo,
gosh.
Final Fantasy, Crystal Chronicles on the
That was a
queue.
great game.
As a huge
See, I played the
nostalgia.
DS one a ton during high school.
Yeah.
That's very nostalgic for me.
Because you were over that one time when we were playing with our cousins, weren't you?
Yeah.
We were fighting that one boss.
I was like,
and
this is too intense
you're
for
like,
me.
oh my god.
It was intense, but
Yeah, I
once
was
we
like, what
beat
is
it, we
going
were
on?
like, oh,
That
Like,
was like,
your level of coordination was astounding. I'm like,
yeah.
it was
I wish
pretty
people
incredible.
like on Call of Duty were like this back in the day.
Yeah.
You guys are like, go over here, shoot healing. All right, let's get our circles lined up so we can blast heal it. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
This
but
is insane.
that's what made it so fun. But that's the nostalgia is I haven't, and I mean maybe that's why games like WoW or World of Warcraft and some of those other MMOs are just so much fun. Is that's the fun of that game is, you know, okay, I gotta drop this. Like, all right, I'm low on health. I need you to do this, and just you know,
It's the collaboration,
just the different,
teaming
you know,
up.
some of
Yeah.
the different
It
things.
breeds
that
so
you have-
many funny moments. Because I just
It
remember
was so
like,
intense. Jeez.
that reminded me of like RuneScape back in the day, and just like
RuneScape.
oh, I have so much nostalgia tied to that. Just because like I'd be at my friend's house playing, and like so many stupid funny things would
Mhm.
happen where you're just like busting a gut. But
Definitely.
yeah, that's funny.
Good
I thought of another
times.
one, Pokemon Snap.
Oh
Yeah, buddy.
man,
I remember
bought-
I remember beating
Yeah.
the game and trying to like snap Mewtwo on that like moon or whatever, or Mew on the moon, and he keeps like moving around and like popping.
It's
his
so
bubbles,
hard.
like
Yeah.
or whatever.
You're like, get back.
Yeah. And I remember finding like all the little secrets. So you like chuck the
Yep.
apple into the fire, and then Charmeleon evolves into Charizard or something
Yep.
if you wait long enough, and it's just like
Or you get
you're
like
oh
Zapdos to
my-
come out and stuff like
yeah,
that. I remember that.
That was so nostalgic.
Yep.
And I remember going to a friend's house and playing Sonic the Hedgehog. That was super nostalgic too. I need to get that new one and play that.
Dude,
Sonic
Sonic
Mania.
Mania is
Very-
awesome.
Yeah,
It
not
is
Sonic
awesome.
Forces.
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah, the 2D one that they
Unless
released.
you really want to see your OC,
Wait, what?
OG.
like Sonic OC, original character.
Oh, okay.
No, it's a
Oh,
that's
that's
a,
right. That's
that's
right.
a running
right.
joke in the like gaming community is like people make really strange derp. Well, not all the time derpy. There are some that look kind of cool, but like just make their own original characters and stuff like that. And like,
Can you make your own character in that?
Yeah.
You can.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh,
Yeah.
that sounds hilarious.
Which it was kind of like, oh, that's kind of cool, but then of course the rest of the game is trash.
It's
And
awful.
Do you
don't
guys have
wanna-
it?
No.
No, our younger cousin who's a huge Sonic fan played it, and he was like, "Yeah, he was like, I remember I was like, oh, he's like, I got Sonic Forces. Like, oh yeah, how is it? He was like, I wanted it to be good. I wanted it to succeed.
I was pulling,
but no. He's like, but no, it's awful. It's not
That's
good.
hilarious.
Yep.
That's hilarious.
Raising them right.
That's funny. But yeah, Sonic is another one that's super nostalgic. Speaking of Sonic
go
Mania, were you gonna say something?
I had probably my number one nostalgia game of all time. But
You go, and then
go
I'll.
for it.
I was
No,
I was gonna
share the biggest thing of my life, but
No,
you
I was
go.
gonna
We're
transition. So
Okay.
if you want to throw your thing in quick, and then
SSX freaking tricky.
Yeah, you
Not
mentioned-
SSX 3, not SSX World Tour, SSX tricky.
tricky.
That
Ooh.
game. If I had an hour counter when I was a kid of how many hours I put into that game, it was probably close to 100 plus.
That was your yeah.
Same.
So into SSX tricky. I was stupid good at that game. Just that game was unreal.
Sounds like
levels
a
of
good
fun.
video challenge.
Absolutely.
It will
I
be.
have it on there. So yeah, we're gonna do
I
that.
used
Just
to play
funny
a lot
'cause
back in
I-
the day. We could do me versus you. Like
I think what I'm gonna do is it'll be similar to what we did, where it's gonna be you guys have to beat my score. Like I'll do a run and then you guys have to beat my
nope.
score and
Nope. Already done.
30
No,
minutes.
when was it when we played it?
I think it was last
together?
year.
It was last year.
You
It
just
was like
came
last
over.
year during Christmas, and now, or like sometime, and I was like, oh, cool. I was like, I haven't played Tricky in forever. I was awful, and I never was good at that game. I realized that, but like I was even trying really hard, and I was like, I just can't. And then you were like, oh shoot, I messed up a little bit, but like you had the Tricky meter the entire time.
Yeah,
just
like
pulling
I had,
off everything.
Because do you remember? So if you pull off a tricky move, you get
Yep.
a letter,
Mhm.
and I think it was midway through the first. It was like midway through the first race or whatever. I had a full tricky bar. I had tricky spelled out already,
Mhm.
so I was
doing
just
all
like,
like the ridiculous
That's
yeah,
moves
so
and
hilarious.
stuff.
so I was like double comboing tricky moves, and
I still remember your favorite one because I watched you play it all the time. When you play as Simon.
Yup,
And he does the one where he just like is like standing in the air and spins the board
boards.
around
Yeah,
his
yeah.
neck.
He had another
was-
one.
I remember
though.
that one actually.
Yeah, one of my other favorite moves that he did. Simon was probably my favorite tricky.
Oh, the one where he
character.
like stabs.
Yeah,
himself
he
with the
like stabs himself with the board and like pulls it through himself and then lands on it. It's just like it's
so
the most
weird.
wild game
That's
ever.
hilarious.
But just the move set, and because I
Yeah.
almost got Steep when Ubisoft did that, I was super excited because it sounded like Skate but for snowboarding.
Mhm.
But there was just this cartoony
It's the quirkiness
madness
of it. Yeah.
of SSX Tricky that was just so fun. And it was kind of in 3, but 3 was a little more 3 was like the kid who comes home from college and he's like, I'm so enlightened. Like I still snowboard, but I'm like a pro now. Whereas SSX Tricky was like the high schooler on cracked out. It was just like,
Yeah, you got Freddy, who's literally on crack.
yeah, you had like 70s dude. You had Luther, the big redneck fat guy. You had Brody, the Zen guy. You had JP.
Yeah, the little Japanese girl. You had the
Kaori.
like America's Next Top Model woman.
Yeah,
in the red
they were
jacket.
just, oh man, that game was so fun.
Yeah, I remember on PS2 putting in hours.
Yep.
So that's the thing is I'm good on PS2 probably, but if we play on GameCube,
Don't use that excuse again. I'm not buying that crap anymore.
Ooh.
I'm calling you out, son.
that GameCube controller though,
It's so
People
good.
say
I love
it-
the GameCube, but I despise the controller.
People say it's one of the best controllers out there, so
Literally.
you are wrong.
You're
I
just
wrong,
think,
wrong,
I think
wrong.
I think people would rate the 360 controller above it, but
I don't like the 360.
I don't make the big.
The
I do like the 360 controller, but the GameCube is
I
also
think
one of my favorite
the
controllers.
joystick is smoother because it's actually round and not hexagonal on other controllers.
That's why
I can
GameCube's-
see that.
I
but,
understand
yeah.
it, but
That's not an excuse.
I understand it, but
no.
I disagree with everything. Okay, but I still think you're wrong.
sorry, I thought this
and-
was the Tilt Brigade.
Yeah, right?
I'll save that for next. next time.
Oh god.
I found my tilting opinion.
Yeah.
Um,
Chris would probably agree with you.
yeah,
but
he probably
we'll
would.
see.
Yeah, well,
He's a 360 guy.
You two are Xbox boys,
Yeah.
Those Xbox
360
fanboys.
was superior in its day.
but then you're
True.
I was
And
just
it
talking to
still is.
Nintendo boys. So
Yeah.
Squad
I'm always like surrounded by Nintendo folks, so I got to throw my
ye Nintendo.
Throw
Oh,
my-
ye Nintendo.
Ye Nintendo folks. So yeah, we were talking about Sonic Mania before,
Yes.
and I think we're almost done here. But
Yep.
There's seems to be a resurgence as of late of old school stylized games, especially like 2D platformer, 2D RPG style games, even some 3D platformers and stuff. Without belaboring the point too much, what is your guys' opinion on that?
Wait, so not remasters. We're talking like
No,
resurgence
we'll,
of stylized. Okay.
We'll pocket that for a different
Yeah,
discussion.
that's
But
different.
like specifically games that are stylized and trying to like capitalize on that
Yeah.
nostalgic.
I kind of already shared my piece. Oh, excuse me.
My
Man, my piece. What if, like, when you voice craft, you kept that whole tone throughout the rest of the
that'd be
sentence?
perfect.
I just thought that'd be so weird. Like, we should go out and celebrate. Ooh, excuse me. I wish voice cracks worked like that. It'd be much funnier in life. It's just embarrassing now when it happens. I'm 20 years old. I shouldn't be freaking voice cracking. Anyway, I already shared my piece on Ahead in Time. And I still kind of stand by it of like I think I shared that on the which podcast did we do? Like the 2017
That
game,
was
like the rap or
2
the,
weeks ago, I think.
2 weeks ago. And that one I kind of was just saying, I was just praising Hat in Time, just saying how good it was in terms of revitalizing that, the old school 3D platformer formula, which I love, Banjo-Kazooie and, like Super Mario and stuff, primo games. And I've also been really getting into like 2D platformers too. I don't know if I mentioned it yet. There's a really good game called Iconoclast.
Yeah.
That I think I mentioned already, but you should check it out if you want to. That's one where it's like the puzzle 2D platformer, but it's got like really good, almost like Mega Man style elements of like you're running and gunning, but also like solving stuff, which I think is like a really nice blend, really good blend of gameplay. And I'm happy. I enjoy people taking that kind of formula and just tweaking it to a more modern setting, if that makes sense, or more modern tone. It's kind of hard to nail down, but like I'm a huge sucker for pixel art. Like really good pixel art just is one of my favorite art styles, and Iconoclast is that way, and so is like Sonic Mania too. That's like pixel art and whatnot. I'm a huge sucker for that stuff. If they do a good job with it, I don't want this like overabundance of all this stuff and everything.
Now
sucks.
it's hip to make pixel
But
art
I think
games.
it's so easy to make those kind of games that like if you do a really good job, you can really revolutionize. Because that was some people's complaint with Iconoclast is like, yeah, it's really good, but like it didn't revolutionize anything. It's like, yeah, but there's not really too much to revolutionize, if that makes sense. There is some stuff that you can really expand upon, but like I don't see for that kind of game that's going for like this is a 2D platformer. I feel like it's very difficult to make these huge changes that just revolutionize it as a game style because it's been around for so long.
Sure.
So,
I think building off that point, I do think it's making a resurgence for a couple reasons. One, because it is playing off the nostalgia, and
very
I
much
think
so. Yeah.
everyone went so hard into 4K graphics and stuff that people still were like, well, what if I made Hotline Miami? And it's not, high res 4K crazy graphics and colors, but it's a great game. It's made well and is awesome. But I think the other big factor too is just production cost. A lot of these games are made by smaller developers and smaller teams who, I was just one of my coworkers is teaching me how to make pixel art in Illustrator, and it's like pretty easy. Like if you just make a design and line art it, and then you just basically overlay a whole bunch of squares to however detailed you want it to be, and you just fill it in, and that's it. But I'm making it sound way more simplistic. Yeah. But it's one of those things where
compared to 4K
versus like
games.
versus like a 4K 3D rendered Blender animated game, which has tons of steps, potentially motion tracking. You'd need way higher audio stuff for the music. You can't get away with doing a pixel.
8-bit.
Yeah, just 8-bit synth, synth stuff.
Chiptune like 8-bit music. It's my jam.
So, but I think that's another huge part of it too. And I do think also though it's almost like an honoring of the past. I think there are people who, when I was a kid, I'm sure there were games that I played that were 2D brawlers that I was like, man, I wish you could do this. Even now I have that all the time where I would love having a brawler where there's more of a almost like how fighters have combos and stuff like that, but having literally like combo command lists that were super, I don't want to say complicated, but there was a huge list. It wasn't just, if you do like down B or like Smash Bros style, which has a lot of combos, but it's a little more, it's not as variant.
Right.
But just having something like that in like a brawler would be so awesome. But there are people I think who are taking that style, taking the resources that they have. I mean, for crying out loud, we did it with our video. We just set up a cheap green screen in our house and then goofed off and did that. And it turns out fine, but it's not, what a like IGN would be able to do with a full set and hundreds of thousands of dollars they can throw at production costs and stuff like that. But
so it's respecting both in the nostalgia and the people putting effort into revoke in order. Oh man, I'm revoke. Man, I know. I think I'm just when I get tired. I'm just going through puberty again.
Round 2, baby.
Round two. Fight! Oh, fight! We want to go out with me. Oh. I totally forgot what I was saying. Oh, so basically, like supporting those developers and supporting these kind of games coming out you're doing that in order to not only support the nostalgia, but also support the people and be like, yes, this is what we want. This is good. Keep doing this, please. I agree with that 100%.
So I want people to keep doing it. But again, I also don't want people to look at that and be like, see, old stuff was better. It's like, no, that game is better.
Yeah.
Because I don't want people to remake
very
E.T.,
true.
which, I mean, E.T. was terrible to begin with, and no one argued it was good. But
yeah,
I don't want people to remake crappy old games.
That's
I
what
want
happens.
them to...
That actually happened. Bubsy. They remade Bubsy.
Right,
Bubsy is like heralded as one of the worst platformers.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
They remade it,
but
and
they remade
it. It's like it wasn't even the remake wasn't that good.
And then the remake was just as bad. So in the same way we were talking about everyone copying other companies for succeeding with microtransactions, I don't want other companies to copy a style just because, oh, well, this is the thing now. Like, do what you can do. Activision should. I don't think Activision should make pixel art style.
If they make a 2D platformer, I will not. If I'm going to see Activision, it's like, okay, if you've got a competent team, then sure. But
right. But for them, I just don't know why you would do that, because you have the resources to make a cinematic military shooter like the Call of Duty series. Even though I'm not a huge fan, it still takes a lot of effort and it takes a lot of stuff that 4 guys in a basement can't do. But 4 guys in a basement can make Cuphead. So so like do that and like make what you can do. But anyway.
Yeah, I agree with all those points.
I agree with everything you've just said.
Yeah, I think it's like we've always said, is the tendency is for people to take one side or the other. But I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle, where people who can afford to make smaller indie titles are going to make them, and people who can afford to make the bigger games are going to make them. And then there will be some crossover where people are like trying to capitalize on what's popular and stuff. But
right.
I feel like nostalgia is a big factor in a lot of things that are happening nowadays. A lot of companies, especially our generation, people are like realizing that we'll shell out money for things that we like. But as long as it's good.
I think it's a strange marketing thing, as I'm thinking about it, is if you think about it, when you're a kid, you're at the whim of your parents. You're not, you don't have volition to say, oh, I want this game. You're like, Mom, can I please have this game? You kind of get what you get because you don't have.
Well, you do ask for it or something.
Right, exactly. But it's like you're kind of at the luck of the draw. So if you got
if
this,
they want to get it for you, they get it for you.
Right, exactly. And of course, there's outliers of the rich snooty parents who are like, if you'll stay away out of my space, you're gonna have whatever you want. But
that's every single parent, right?
every single parent. But there is a level of interest. I think there's, especially now, I think there's a new thing going on where people are almost praying, and that sounds negative. They're embracing the fact that now we as a generation from the 90s, we love 90s looking stuff because we can afford it and we can buy whatever, if they make gosh, I don't know of anything crazy, but like movies and narratives and books and TV shows and all, different stuff that is stylized after all these things. It's like, oh, well, all the 90s kids should have jobs now. So, I mean, they'll probably shell out $30 for this thing. So I think
it's absolutely true.
I think same thing
depending on what it is.
Right, exactly. But I think that's the same thing with games too, is, there's a level of, I can try out more of these games because I couldn't do that when I was a kid. Some of the retro games I'm going back and playing, it's like, oh, I always wanted that, but I never did because I couldn't get it. So just a thought.
The last point I want to make, and then maybe we could wrap it up, is I think a thing that defines a good nostalgia game, if it's going for nostalgia, is a game that like feeds on the nostalgia aspect of like good gameplay and all the platforming of the old school era, but remains its own identity and is not tied to like we're bringing back the 90s. It's like, okay, I mean, yeah, I like the 90s, but what else you got? It's like the 90s.
Hubba Bubba Max.
Hubba Bubba Max. Remember
Bubble
that?
Jug. Bubble Jug.
Because like one example that's not a video game that I just thought of was that Stranger Things is a brilliant show in that it capitalizes so much on the 80s and 80s references, but it's not like this. It's not overtly being like, oh, whoa, this was in the 80s. Whoa, we're in the 80s.
Remember when they used to use VCRs? Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't like walk into a living room and then they're like, hey, let's use the VCR.
Okay. Whoa, this videotape. I wonder what it would be like if it was smaller. Oh, well. Like,
you silly goose.
What if
there will
s-
never be a digital kind of thing.
yeah, what if they made something that's circular and smaller, like a DVD? DVD.
What is
that?
yeah, exactly.
That's how it would go.
But sometimes games do that, and
They really
it
do.
confuses
Yeah.
me. Where it's like, huh, remember when we used to do this in this game?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
It's kind of
It's like,
patronizing.
why? Yeah,
Yeah.
you're like, why?
Unless they're
duh.
doing it for a humor effect.
Right.
Then you're like, oh, ha, 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 that's
right.
funny.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that's Borderlands does that. I think that
Yeah.
Borderlands is perfect for because
It's,
I think there's a
it's
mission.
more self-aware humor where
Yeah.
you're like,
It makes fun of stuff all
I think
the
there's
time.
literally a claptrap mission where he's like, "No, I'm going to send you on another useless fetch quest," just like referencing, but it's like a quick
Yeah.
reference. And
One of my favorite references in that is there's one side mission you can do where it's like, because I remember doing it and being like, I didn't realize what they were going for until I got there, but it's like, go in the sewer and deliver this pizza. I was like, okay, that's a weird mission. But then you go down there and it's like these 4 psychopaths have like names that are close to the Ninja Turtles, but they're not actually. And they're just like, whoa, dudes, the pizza's here. I was like,
yes,
Oh!
I remember that. I love that mission. That was awesome.
That's
so
a
good.
fantastic one.
man, good time.
And then you have to fight them or something
Then
like
you have
that.
to, you have to kill them.
You're like,
Sad-
oh man,
sad,
you made
but
me kill the turtles.
but they do try to kill you right after
That's
you
true.
deliver their pizza. So
Yeah,
it's
you like
for
put it on the
whatever
table
reason.
and then they attack you
what can you do?
because they don't want to pay for it.
Yeah.
Can't blame them.
They're mutants
Deadbeats.
living in the sewer.
I'm not gonna blame them, but I'm also gonna kill them. So.
Yeah, you gotta know their choice in that
Yeah.
game, and that's what the game. I love how the game does that too. It's like just kill. That's how the
Just-
game operates
Just kill
too.
them.
It's like,
Like new
well,
mission.
just gotta kill them.
Kill the 4 psychos
Basically.
and take the pizza back.
Yep. Oh, good time.
Anyway,
Yeah.
wrapping up.
Way to end on Borderlands. It's a good game.
Good game. Borderlands 1 is super nostalgic for me, but it's a good one.
Well, Phil, do you have to pee?
I don't.
Oh,
I do have
Oh.
a headache though. I don't know why.
Well, we got to keep podcast going until
Yeah,
you
we got
guys-
like we got to add like 50 more minutes for Josh.
yeah. So anyway, so I was gonna talk to you guys all about this because we gotta go. Just kidding.
But
That's for you, Bus.
What?
that's for you, boss.
I don't get
Who
it.
are you?
I just faded.
Yeah, I'm like
I was making
I'm
a
getting
joke.
super tired.
Yeah, we just need to go for what?
So
maybe
thanks for
another 50 minutes.
listening, everybody.
Well, thanks for
Thanks for
listening.
thanks for tuning in.
Do that in the bathroom. That's gross.
Do that in the bathroom. Yeah, thanks for listening in. Check us out, or tell your friends to check us out on
yeah.
iTunes,
Tell your
Stitcher,
friends to check us out.
YouTube
YouTube, and
very soon.
TuneIn
That's it.
Radio. Or did you
I'm
get
just
rid of that?
cutting, We're cutting it. So
No more
iTunes,
TuneIn Radio.
Google Play, Stitcher,
Oh,
YouTube.
Google Play. That's what I was missing. And we'll have our episodes up on YouTube at
Very
some
soon.
point
Very,
with
very
cool
soon.
little things Josh created. So.
Yep. So those will be fun if you want to see what. So all the funny note, all of the little clips, other than the obvious TV show episodes that play, all those were clips of ourselves that we recorded and we have video. So if you want to see what actually happens in the video, those will be on YouTube in the near future so you can see the intros. So that's it.
Alrighty.
And be sure to send us all that stuff for free
sticker
stickers.
stuff.
You can get you can earn a maximum of 3 stickers by completing all the things that will be left in the description to do. And yeah.
See you next week.
That's it, dog.
That's it.
Also
Go-
check out
go play some old games.
our new
Go- yeah,
series that we're
please.
doing called the Video Game Challenge, which is challenges where one of us is the quote-unquote master of that game, has to defend our title, and the other people have to do something stupid and win. So it's basically a let's play, but we just cut out all the boring moments and just keep the funny stuff in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm falling asleep here, dude.
Whoa.
Well,
I was gonna see
Well,
that's a wrap,
that's it.
folks.
That's
That's
a
it.
we don't want to leave people hanging.
That's
No,
what
we
that's what
absolutely
would have been. That's what would have been hilarious. Is it's just like, well,
See,
You should just please
That
end
starts-
it. Please end it right there, but leave like 10 seconds of silence. Please
Yeah.
do that.
All right.
So
Well,
people like listen for the
yeah. I guess we'll call it here.
Voices in my heart tell me to throw it all away, to toss it in the wind and forget yesterday. But the crowd comes singing back with that same old song. You've got bills you gotta pay. What about job security? But I've been dreaming about packing it all up, 'cause the war in me just won't relent till there's nothing left but dust. So what do you do when the walls start closing in, and everyone you love tells you it's all just in your head? And I wanna burn out in a brilliant burning blaze. Don't wanna be stifled by the dry rot or the haze. I'm not giving up, I just don't have the time to waste all my days rewriting all these lies. I'm not giving up, I just don't have the time to spend another moment living someone else's life. The path that we all choose only takes us one way. Either we're honest with ourselves or we're lost in the parade. And each and every one of us will make the same mistakes. But it's in these moments of defeat that we can break ourselves free. And I wanna burn out in a brilliant burning blaze. Don't wanna be stifled by the dry rot or the haze. I'm not giving up, I just don't have the time to waste all my days rewriting all these lies. I'm not giving up, I just don't have the time to spend another moment living someone else's life. In defense of honesty, in defense of honesty, in defense of honesty, in defense of honesty. I'm gonna burn out in a brilliant burning blaze. No, I will not be stifled by the dry rot or the haze. I'm not giving up, I just don't have the time to waste all my days rewriting all these lies. I'm not giving up, I just don't have the time to spend another moment living someone else's life. I'm not giving up, I just don't have the time to waste all my days rewriting all these lies. I'm not giving up, I just don't have the time to spend another moment living someone else's life. I'm not giving up, I just don't have the time to waste all my days rewriting all these lies. I'm not giving up, I just don't have the time to spend another moment living someone else's life. I'm not giving up, I just don't have the time to waste all my days rewriting all these lies. I'm not giving up, I just don't have the time to spend another moment living someone else's life. I'm not giving up, I just don't have the time to waste all my days rewriting all these lies. I'm not giving up, I just don't have the time to spend another moment living someone else's life. I'm not giving up, I just don't have the time to waste all my days rewriting all these lies. I'm not giving up, I just don't have the time to spend another moment living someone else's life. I'm not giving up, I just don't have the time to waste all my days rewriting all these lies. I'm not giving up, I just don't have the time to spend another moment living someone else's life I'm not giving up, I just don't have the time to waste all my days rewriting all these lies. I'm not giving up, I just don't have the time to spend another moment living someone else's life.